Hi, everybody. My name is John Clausen. I am a teacher at Hockaday School. But before I became a teacher in 2017, I spent the bulk of my career as a trial lawyer, mostly with the United States Department of Justice. And I can tell you that the only reason I became an attorney and could have the career that I did was because I spent a lot of time in school developing my public speaking skills. And I hope that you do as well.
Hello to everybody at Medrano. My name is Sean Rabb at Fox 4 News. Hey, I'm a television news reporter on Fox 4. So I want to talk to you a little bit about public speaking.
I am a professional interview coach and a resume writer. I work with corporate clients. I work with pageant clients. And right now I have hundreds of people that I'm actively working with, either to prepare them for job interviews or preparing them for pageant interviews.
Hi, I'm Leslie O'Hare. I'm excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today as it pertains to public speaking. But first, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a TV host, podcast host, TEDx speaker, as well as an author and a mindset life coach. I'm currently the host of the Renewed Minds podcast, a show that I created to empower women and teen girls to cultivate a growth mindset, inspiring them to rise bravely above obstacles and challenges, break free toward mental health freedom, so they can reach their full potential while valuing their inherent self-worth. As a TEDx speaker, I believe being a public speaker and having those essential skills are so important. The reason for that, it is extremely important to be able to articulate your story, your desires, and your feelings to the individual person or individuals that you're speaking to. I always say, whether I am speaking to one person or hundreds or thousands of individuals in an auditorium, it is very important for me to always leave a positive imprint on their life. And I can't think of a better way to do that than as a public speaker. I hope that the questions that I answer for you today will allow you to be able to go on a trajectory beyond your imagination to learn, discover, grow, and soar in the area of becoming a public speaker and enhancing your communication skills.
First, because it's the best way as you go through your life that you can be an effective advocate for yourself and your career and the things that matter to you. Secondly, there's a lot of studies that indicate that the number one skill that employers of all types are looking for right now is the ability to communicate with other people and collaborate. And that's true whether you become a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or somebody in business, anything really. You're going to be asked from time to time to do a presentation for your colleagues at work.
It is so important that you not be afraid to speak publicly, that you conquer that. Now listen, I know that we live in a social media world and we spend our time right here and don't talk a lot, but public speaking is important. You'll need it if you're ever making a presentation in a class. You'll need it as you go to college, and you'll need it in your professional life down the road. Here's what. Public speaking is simply conveying what you think or what you feel, what you're passionate about to someone else, to a group of people.
I know that oftentimes we think of public speaking, we imagine someone standing on stage speaking to hundreds or thousands of individuals, and that is public speaking. However, I want you to think about it on a smaller scale first. And what I mean by that, think of public speaking when you're talking to your peers, your teachers, or your parents and siblings at home. That is a form of public speaking because you are speaking in public. You're speaking to someone one-on-one. I want you to also understand public speaking is very essential because it allows us the opportunity to communicate. We have to talk each and every day, but it's very important to know how to effectively express your feelings, your desires, and your emotions so that the individual person that you're speaking to have a clear understanding of the message that you are conveying to them.
First of all, I want you to realize that your audience wants to see you succeed. That should take a lot of the pressure off. They're not sitting there hoping you make a mistake. They're pulling for you and they want to see you succeed. Secondly, don't memorize your speech. I think it's important to go into any kind of public presentation prepared, knowing what your topics are, perhaps memorizing bullet points. But if you memorize an entire speech and then you forget one word or you get lost in your speech, that's when your presentation tends to go south. So go into it prepared and ready with notes and bullet points, but completely speaking from the heart. So the words come out differently every time, but your message is the same.
Fear of public speaking is called glossophobia. Strange word, sort of like arachnophobia is fear of spiders. Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking. And studies say that it's one of the most common fears there is among people, especially young people. So I don't want you to feel bad that you're a little nervous when you are asked to do a presentation. But it gets easier and those nerves will go away the more you do it. What I suggest if you do feel nervous is breathing through your nose, deep breath, and exhaling through your mouth. Do that just a few times before you start to speak. I promise you it's gonna calm you down. It works for nearly everyone for any type of nervousness.
Public speaking applies to everyone. You don't have to be a news anchor or a lawyer working in a courtroom setting every day for public speaking to be important. You know, most of us in the workforce will have job interviews that we go through, whether we're going for promotions within our organization or whether we are changing companies and looking to go a completely different route. You will have opportunities in your life professionally to promote yourself, to explain to a panel of interviewers why you're the best choice for this job. And in order to do that, you need to be comfortable speaking your truth. You need to be comfortable as a storyteller and able to share your experiences and how those stories and how those, learnings and those opportunities for growth have prepared you for future positions.
Here's my best advice to becoming a better public speaker. Those of you that do sports or music know that the best way to get better is to do a lot of reps or repetitions, which means you play a lot of games, you practice a lot, and you get better. Or you play your instrument a bunch or do different concerts, you get better. Speech and public speaking generally is exactly the same thing. Do it a lot every chance you get, and you're gonna get more comfortable and you're gonna improve. Here's a strategy for engaging effectively with almost any audience, and that's to tell a story or an anecdote at the beginning of whatever talk you're giving. As human beings, we have what are called storytelling brains, which means that for reasons of evolution probably, we're primed to pay attention when somebody tells us a little story about something. Think of back in the days of early man, when we may have heard what's going on with the clan a couple miles away. It's how we process information. So almost always as an introduction to your talk, tell a little story about yourself, something that makes your topic relatable, or even tell a story about a famous person, maybe President Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt rather did something one time, or Albert Einstein did something interesting one time when you're talking about a science topic. Almost always, that's going to bring people in and make people want to listen to you. I promise you, it works. Here's another tip for being an excellent public speaker, and that is don't be afraid to move. Good public speakers don't just stand like a ramrod straight pole during a speech. They move a little bit to emphasize points, sort of like a human paragraph break if you're writing an essay. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to pace back and forth. That's distracting. But movement that's thoughtful and purposeful, either walking to a new position, using your hands to emphasize points, all play into being an effective communicator. Now, what I do gesture-wise may not be what you do, and that's okay. Practice, figure out what works for you to be an effective communicator in terms of gestures and movements. Everybody is just a little bit different in that respect.
And when you're speaking before a group of people, just imagine that you're talking to a family member or to your best friend. Focus on one person in the room that you've made a connection with through eye contact, and just talk with that person, what you have written, what you have prepared in your speech. Don't make it too difficult. Think about what you want to say. Write it out and practice it. Stand in front of a mirror and practice until you're comfortable with it, and then make that presentation. Whenever you are speaking to a group, do a little research about that group and find out what they are about, and then incorporate that, add that to the speech that you are preparing. Every speech needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And you want to have a big idea. The big idea is what you leave with people so they remember. If they don't remember anything else, they remember the big idea that public speaking is something you will need forever. That's the big idea of what I'm sharing with you right now. Always think about it. Always write it down. Always do some research on the group that you're speaking to, and then incorporate that. Fold all of that in to your presentation. Public speaking will give you confidence. Will you be nervous? Sure, at first, but again, remember, focus on one person. Imagine you're talking to family or to your best friend, and you're really relating to them what you feel. If you speak from the heart, if you speak with passion, it will always be easy for you. I hope this helps you. I hope that you learn something about public speaking.
One of the processes that I go through to prepare for a speaking engagement is really setting myself down in a quiet space where I can write my customized speech for the event that has just hired me as a guest speaker. One of the other things I like to do, I also implement this in my coaching with my clients, whether I'm teaching a teen girl or a woman to enhance their public speaking skills. I train them, and I do this myself because it's so effective. I like to stand in front of a full-length mirror and literally deliver my entire speech. This technique allows me to look at my facial expressions. It allows me to see if I'm making the right facial expressions. Am I making too many facial expressions? And am I smiling when I am articulating my message to my audience? It also gives me the opportunity to look at my hand gestures. Am I utilizing them at the right moments, or am I overusing my hand gestures? I do encourage you, the next time you write your speech and you're going to deliver a speech, get out a full-length mirror, stand in front of it, deliver your message, and look at your hand gestures, look at your facial expressions. I promise you, you will be glad that you did, and this technique will make you a very impactful, powerful speaker. One of the strategies that I use to engage with my audience effectively, and also I would like to add immediately, from the time that I'm introduced on stage as the speaker for a particular event, I always greet my audience with a smile, with lots of energy, and I always start with a joke. I do that so I'm able to utilize that joke as an icebreaker in the room so that my audience is relaxed and that they can immediately connect with me and they immediately like me, so that they are able to be open and free now to move forward and being able to be empowered and inspired by the message that I'm getting ready to deliver to them.
Another tip I have for becoming a better public speaker is when you get to high school, see whether there's a speech and debate team that you can join. Very often high schools have them, and there's all sorts of different events that you can do. Debate, you can do public speaking like original oratory, even do some acting kind of things. Some of these events you write speeches ahead of time, and some are limited prep events, which you only have a half an hour to get a speech together. I did that in high school and had so much fun, and I also coach it in high school now. I think you'll enjoy it. You'll get a lot of practice in public speaking, might get to travel a little bit to tournaments out of town, win trophies. It's a great activity for anybody in high school, really, really fun, and it's going to rapidly cause you to improve and become better.
What advice would I give someone who is new to public speaking and wants to improve? Well, first of all, congratulations on identifying an area of development for yourself and committing to working on it. I think that's fantastic. The advice that I would give you is watch TED Talks. All of my clients know that I am a huge fan of TED Talks. I watch them all the time. I recommend them to my clients. There's a book by Carmine Gallo called Talk Like TED that has literally analyzed the most watched TED Talks of all time, and he determines what elements of persuasion and communication theory are important for you to incorporate in your own presentations. So read the book, but watch TED Talks. These communicators have prepared and planned out these presentations and have practiced and practiced and practiced, and they're expert communicators. Watch their body language, listen to the words they choose, listen to their voice inflection, watch how they connect with their audience. Connecting with people is the most important thing you will do. Whether you're giving a speech to an audience of 5 or an audience of 50,000, you've got to find a way to connect, and I think no one does it better than some of the best TED talkers of all time.
Another easy strategy for public speaking is called signposting. And what that means is after you do your introduction to your speech, what you want to do is outline your 2, 3, 4 points that you're going to make in your speech. For example, if I was doing a talk on the history of the American Revolution, I might, after my introduction telling a story about the founding fathers, I might say, first, we're going to talk about the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Then we're going to talk about how the Constitution was actually ratified. And third and last, I'm going to tell you about how George Washington became the first president of the United States. And then I would turn around and actually goes through those 3 things. Signposting. What that does is it gives an audience kind of a mental checklist as they're listening to you. They know where the speech is going and they kind of check it off as they listen to you. It does wonders for having your audience pay close attention to you and not kind of drift off and not know where you're going in the speech. I promise you, signposting really, really helps in any speech.
Okay, let me tell you this also. In addition to researching and writing it out and practicing it, you also want to relate to the group or the people that you are communicating with. So you want to try to always tell a little story about yourself. You want to add a little humor if you can. And if you're talking to your peers, if you're talking to students, what's popular in your world right now? What's popular? What's a popular song? What's your favorite app? You want to include some of that, talking about that as you make a connection to your speech, to your big idea. It's always important that you draw your audience in, and you do that by relating to them and really by sharing something about yourself. That's real important. People can connect with that. Whenever I'm talking or sharing or telling a public story, I always talk about being the youngest of 3 children, growing up in a home, a single parent home with my mother and my grandmother. Somebody in the audience can relate to that, and then they start listening. Public speaking, if you connect with your audience, they'll listen to you. And it helps you become a better listener also. Here's what I mean. A nonverbal listener, in fact, because you can watch their facial expressions and you can see whether they're drawn in, listening to you, or whether they seem bored. Sometimes my speeches don't work. I fall on my face and folks are bored, and I try to hurry up and get through it. But if you do your research up front, if you write and rehearse, and if you relate. So the big 3, research, rehearse, and relate. Those are the big 3 items that are keys to public speaking. And sometimes I get tongue-tied. Here's the 3 items again, right? Research, rehearse, and relate to your audience. If you do those 3 things, you'll always be successful. And the more you speak publicly, the better you get at it. Practice in the mirror at home. Find a subject that you're interested in and try to write out a little 1 or 2 minute speech and go over that and see what you come up with. That's important.
Are there any common misconceptions about public speaking that I should be aware of? Yes. Okay. If you have a disability, if you have a speech impediment, if you have a hearing loss, if you have some sort of a learning disability, you can still be a fantastic public speaker. I am a professional interview coach and a resume writer. I work with corporate clients. I work with pageant clients. And right now I have hundreds of people that I'm actively working with, either to prepare them for job interviews or preparing them for pageant interviews. And believe it or not, quite a few of those people have some sort of a disability. I have one client right now who has a stutter. And that's something that has always bothered her. It's always made her feel insecure. And, we've worked through that insecurity. I've talked to her about what her stories are and how beautiful her experiences are. And she's at a place of confidence now where she doesn't fear, if she has an episode of stuttering. She's actually a stand-up comedian, and she's competing for a state title in the Miss America opportunity. So she is putting herself in situations where she's having to speak publicly, and she's challenging herself to do something that used to make her feel uncomfortable, and she's fantastic at it. I also have a client who has a hearing loss, and she has a bit of a speech impediment because of that. And she's also super confident speaking and realizes that her voice might not sound like everyone else's, but her message is what's important. And the connecting with someone from the heart is way more important than any type of disability that you may have. I have clients who have dyslexia. I have one client specifically who is an actress, and she has to read scripts. She has to go and sight read. I forget what they call it in the theater world, but they'll hand her a script that she's never seen before, and she has to read it and act it out. And that's nerve-wracking for someone with dyslexia, where words sometimes look jumbled on a page. But she's overcome her fear, and she's a very successful traveling actress. So don't let your disabilities, don't let your insecurities overtake you and make you think that you can't be a public speaker. You may have to work a little harder than others, but you can do it, and you can be super effective at it.